Welcome back to Blurred Summits. Today we are talking about whether money buys you happiness. Hudson, does money buy you happiness?
I think it can. I think there's the saying where it's like, you'd rather be sad in a Ferrari than sad on a bicycle or something like that, right? Like, I don't think money is the deciding factor on whether you're happy or not, but it definitely doesn't hurt to have money. I think that's what it is, at least for me.
Yeah, maybe not having money makes you unhappy, but having money doesn't necessarily make you happy.
No, because you can be happy and not have money.
Really?
Yeah. If you're doing what you want to do, right? Like if your passion isn't necessarily something that has to do with money, some charitable causes, you don't necessarily have the money. But if you're happy with what you're doing, then you're happy.
Right.
I think ultimately they're two different entities that are often merged together and looked at as one brings the other.
So you're saying it doesn't buy you happiness?
No, it doesn't. Money does not buy you happiness, but not having, I guess, it doesn't, having money is, I guess, better than not having money in certain circumstances. But obviously, you shouldn't have money be the deciding factor on whether you look for whether you're happy or not.
There's a study that showed it was like there is a direct correlation between happiness and the amount that you earn until you reach the poverty line. So once you hit the poverty line in your specific location, you have the necessities, right? Like you can at least pay for your basic necessities. Then that correlation started to get all wonky, right? So the idea basically said that money buys you happiness until you don't need that money to survive.
Yeah, I think that does make a lot of sense.
Maybe that also goes to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where it's like at the very bottom, it's like food, shelter, these very primal, necessary things that we need to survive.
Yeah.
Once those are satisfied, then money can't buy you things like I don't know, personal connection is at the higher up, things like love.
But then again, the question is, when you're getting that money to get to that poverty line, is that happiness or are you just being, I guess, content with being able to survive at that point? It might not, I don't know if it necessarily is happiness.
Yeah, maybe not. I know that.
I mean, it obviously does.
When you don't
make a
have
difference.
money, you have a lot more stress in your life. So maybe it's not happiness. It's just you're removing stress out of your life.
Peace of mind.
Right.
It provides you peace of mind when you get to the
sustainable. So maybe
point.
that's the question then. Is happiness something in and of itself, or is it the lack of the negatives? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, is happiness, a thing, or is it just happiness is the lack of stress, the lack of worry, the lack of anxiety?
I think happiness is its thing in and of itself. Like
Right.
It's not like the lack of, because think about those people who are like super, super successful, right?
Okay.
So if that's what they truly love to do, there will still be these negatives, these stresses that come along with it, like having to work hard, risk, all these other things. But if you're truly doing what you want to do, then you'll be happy, right? Like I think no matter how high up you go or whatever it is you're doing, there will always be stresses and negatives that come along with it.
Right.
But if it's something that you're happy doing, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right?
That's true.
At least that's where I think it goes with that one.
No, I agree. I can see what you're saying. So so money cannot buy you happiness. So how can you buy it then? How do you get it?
Get happiness?
Yeah.
Follow your passions, right? We've talked about it in the past.
But what does that mean though?
What?
So it's like follow your passions, right? No,
Yes.
we're university students, right? They tell us follow your passions, follow your passions.
They don't.
Do you
that in
believe
university.
that you are following your passion right now?
They don't do that in university.
No, they do not. That's what I'm saying though. Like, would you say that you're relatively happy?
Yeah. I think in the grand scheme of things, yeah.
In the grand scheme of things, you're relatively happy. A lot of people I know, they have good times, they have bad times, but for the most part, you will find more happy people than unhappy people.
Mm-hmm.
But when I look at, okay, how many people do I know are following their passions, quote unquote, I don't, right? I would say more people are not following their passions than people are following their passions.
I think that's because at least at a younger age, you don't really know for sure what your passions are. It's because you have to get through, I feel like to get to your passions, you have to get through the school phase to get to that.
Right.
So then once you get through school, university, high school, whatever it is, when you're done your education, then you can then ask your question, am I following this passion? Because I think with a lot of these things in the workforce, it's so different from school that you don't really know about it until you get there.
So how do I know if I've hit my passion?
You won't until you do it.
I
think that's the thing, is you have an idea of what it might be, but you'll never know for sure until you do it. And I think in university, university isn't really, I'd say no one's passion is university.
Maybe a few here and there. Some weirdos.
Well, no, like, those would be when you get up in academia, then you're following your passion because you're doing research.
So you're
doing
saying
these
like
other
the
things.
undergrad level. At the undergrad level.
Exactly. That's not one's passion. You're not going to take 30 different undergraduate degrees, right?
It's like, what are the odds that the one that you hit is actually your life's true passion? Pretty unlikely. Especially for an undergrad
I was
degree.
saying in undergrad, going for an undergrad isn't really anyone's passion, because if it was, then you just keep going back and doing more and more undergrad degrees, right?
Oh, okay. They would just stay and do undergrad degrees for the rest of their life.
Right? And that's why you go into like the PhDs or any of that type of things. That's them doing their passion, because they're doing research, they're doing this thing, they keep doing what they're doing, moving their step way up in whatever field it is.
Yeah.
Teaching, researching, doing that thing, right? That's how they find their passion. I think 9 times out of 10, a passion, you don't know it until you start working, like really working for it, right? And making, I guess, money for whatever your passion is.
Okay, now there's an argument. It says this. You look at athletes, for example. Athletes, the moment they start getting paid to play the sport, their love of that sport decreases.
Yeah, because they realize it might not be their actual passion. It's because they think getting there and getting this money, it's like no different from you in your undergraduate degree, thinking, oh yeah, when I get out of this and I go get this job and I'm getting paid, I'll love this. This is my passion. It's no different for them, because they get out, they're like, okay, this is fun. This is like when you're playing semi-professional, whatever it is, before you're actually in the big leagues, you're not getting paid. So you're dreaming of this big time where it's like, oh, I'll get this money, I'll get this stuff, I'll be passionate about it, I'll love it. They get there, not what they thought.
But the rationale they gave behind that is they said that once you start getting paid, once it becomes your career and you're getting paid for your passion, then there is the added stress of needing to perform, needing to, like, this becomes, if I don't do this, now things are on the line. From before, I was just doing it for fun.
No,
Nothing's
exactly.
on the line.
That's it, because that's not their job. Once they get pro, it's their job. Before, it's not their job. It's just a hobby.
It's just a hobby. So then if the hobby becomes less fun when you get paid for it, should you make your career something that is not your hobby? Have your hobby continue to be something that is just a enjoyable thing that you do every now and then, but it's not something that you spend most of your time doing.
That's what I'm saying. Like, the thing that you get paid for, that is, you can make that you just need to find something you're passionate about that you can make money from. And clearly, if you're in a sport and you start getting paid and you're like, oh, I don't like this anymore, clearly that's not your professional hobby. It's just your kind of pastime hobby, right?
Okay, so you believe that you can find, or us as humans, each of us can find something that we are extremely passionate about, that we also get paid for, and that passion and pay is something that will provide us the happiness that we want in our life.
That's a tough question. To a degree, yeah. Because, like, you think, how many things out there are there to do that you can get paid for? Infinite amount of things, right?
Yeah.
There is something out there for you that you
Especially
can get paid
nowadays.
for. Yeah, that you're passionate about. I think ultimately you should keep those two kind of fields separate. You keep your hobbies, and work. I think that's the issue is when you blend the two together, then you start getting confused and you start losing that love of that hobby you had in the past.
But then how can I get paid for my passions if I keep them separate?
Well, no, they don't necessarily need to be separate. Like really athletics, and there's a few other things that fall into that hobby that turn into careers, right? That's really the only few exceptions. Most of the times, careers are only really careers. You can't really do them as a hobby. Like you can't be a doctor as a hobby. You can't be a lawyer as a hobby. You can't really be an accountant as a hobby.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Like ultimately,
There'd be
they're
odd
two
hobbies.
separate streams. And it's when you start trying to hop across the streams with the hobbies. Then it becomes this kind of gray area. and
Okay.
mishmash.
So I think I see what you're saying now. We need to clarify.
Yes.
So this is the clarifying. So correct me if I'm wrong. You have a stream of things that you're paid for, and a stream of things that you're not paid for.
Yes.
Two separate rivers, right? Now, in the things that you're not paid for, some of these things you'll hate doing them, and some of these things you'll love doing them. If you hate doing it, obviously stop.
Yeah.
If you love doing it, then we call it a hobby,
Yeah.
right? Now, in the stream of things where you do get paid for it, if you hate doing it, you'll probably be a little unhappy. Maybe sometimes people slug through life paying their dues, whatever it may be. But the aim is to, in the stream of things that you do get paid for, that you find the things that you enjoy doing, and these are what we call your careers.
Yeah. I think the big thing is your hobbies are the things that give you should almost be guaranteed happiness most of the time, right? Ultimately, hobbies, there's really not many negatives that should come out of that.
Right.
But with a career, obviously there will be up and downs. So your hobby should always be there to support you and be good for when like the bad is in the careers, right? Like ultimately we'll look at, I guess with the money and everything, we'll look at me with I guess we'll go law since that's what I'm trying to do. Career, right? Hobbies that I think if I started doing money for them, it would lose it. Well, chess, golf, all these things, right? These are things that they're good times because I don't have to pay and there's no stress behind it. You start adding the stress of having to work and make money and rely on yourself for income, then the good and the bad starts to fluctuate in those hobbies. You've got nothing there in the backdrop guaranteed you happiness, right?
Okay, so in the stream of things that I get paid for, if I'm doing something that I enjoy doing in that stream where I get paid to also do it, and that becomes my career, then that gives me a certain element of happiness.
It can, yeah.
So then in a sense, you can buy happiness.
Nah, not necessarily.
Why not? I'm getting paid to do it. It makes me happy.
The value of that income is irrelevant to that.
Oh, okay. So, okay, I see what you're saying because
you're going to need to be making money either way. So whether you enjoy what you're doing or you hate what you're doing, it's separate to the money. In most senses, at least I think. Right? Because you're doing this career for money no matter what.
So it's not necessarily the money itself that's going to buy you the happiness. It's the
path
career
you choose to go down,
or the path.
So I think your hobby side, like I said, it should always be happiness, guaranteed.
Yeah.
The career side, if it brings you happiness, that's a huge plus, massive plus, right? That's the bonus.
Now, this is the real dinger.
Kicker.
This is the real kicker. Can a person come to this conclusion, or do they have to experience it first? Like, can they come to this conclusion without having to experience it, or do they need to first make a lot of money, be unhappy with that a lot of money, and then they realize money can't buy them happiness?
I know you're referencing J. Cole there, but
maybe also Jim Carrey said it. He said, I wish everyone could be, I'm pretty sure it's Jim Carrey. I could be completely butchering this. Please don't quote me. He said, I wish everybody could be rich and famous, so that they could realize that that's not what they want.
Well, no, that's what I said earlier. Like in the undergrad, like you have to experience the stuff to know whether it's for you or not, right? Like how in the undergrad you can't say, "Oh, I know this is where I want to go for sure because this is my passion," because you haven't done it before. It's like when you, like for me with chess, did I know it was my passion before I started doing it? No. You have to do it to figure it out.
Or like bubble tea.
Sure. You don't really know until you try it, right? You can have these perceptions in your head, and it's nothing like what you perceived it to be or you thought it was going to be like. So no matter what it is, I think you have to try it first before you realize, does this bring me happiness or does it not bring me happiness? Is this a passion? Is this a career? All these things, right? You have to try it before you can make that decision, which is the thing that makes it really tough about everything in life, right?
Yeah.
Because ultimately, sure, your image in your head could be what drives you to get to that point. But once you start doing it, is it what you thought it was going to be?
That's very true. That's very true. And so many times we know what the conclusion is.
The conclusion being what? Like
of life, of a bunch of stuff, right? Going real broad. Like we know that this is right and this is wrong and this outcome leads to here and this outcome leads to here. But until push comes to shove and you're in that moment and you're tested, then you get to really see, okay, is it true or not? It's always the way that we thought it was going to be, but we still fall into those same traps.
Yeah, do you think that with a lot of these things, people know the outcome, but they don't know the emotions that force them to get to these outcomes? Like the ones with a lot of these with money, right? People are like, yo, I need to work this job to get money so then I can retire and do things I want to do. But then they forget the emotions in those middle 40 years.
Yeah. I think we forget the emotions, and I think we're also not self-aware enough to be able to predict our real actions. Right? So we predict our ideal actions.
You predict the end. Like
right?
I feel like a lot of people will skip the middle. They'll just say this, and this is my end. There's so many steps that go in the middle, right?
And we don't have the knowledge to know what those steps might even be or how long they will necessarily take.
And that's the thing. That's why you have to experience things, right? Like you don't know what to expect.
And that's and truth be told, that's the thing that I've sort of come to realize, especially when, like, for example, I've done some high school workshops in the past. Some of these high school guys, I've done some things with people who I've literally gone through the same thing that they're going through. And I know the better path. Like, I know I made the mistakes, and I tell them, you're going to want to do this, you're going to want to do this. And it doesn't matter how much you say or anything, like, the person will not really take it in and learn that lesson.
Well, in reality, experience is the best teacher. Like
sometimes it's the only teacher. Sometimes it doesn't matter how much you try to teach a person. It does not matter. They have to go through it themselves.
But even I think that's the right thing, because say someone guides someone down a path and they realize that path isn't for them. Who are they going to take it out on? Not themselves. They'll have a grudge against the individual who's like, hey, I give you this advice, and then push them down this wrong path, right?
That's true. And another thing is, it's like, it's a little bit selfish to deprive the person of the experience and the lesson themselves. Right? Because it's like, okay, I've been through it. I know the advice I should be giving you. But if I do not let you experience it yourself, then what's life? Is life not a series of experiences and lessons that we take away from those experiences?
I think the big thing is living through these experiences is what drives someone to improve as a person.
Right.
So if you say, oh yeah, here's this little path, this little cheat path that gets you to this point, you're not going to have any of the lessons or anything to push you further up the path, right?
And you've deprived them of what life really is. Right? You have stolen a piece of their soul.
Yeah.
You are a thief.
Well, I don't think you're stealing it. You're blocking them from getting more to their soul, making it bigger.
Right? And that's an unfair thing. That's almost a selfish thing. Right? So it's kind of weird. It's like your good intentions of trying to help a person out in reality are selfish.
Unless they come to you asking for things or asking for, if they come to you, let them know the advice, obviously. But I guess the point of that is don't give advice unless it is wanted.
Yeah. And no, like, I don't know. I feel like sometimes even if you give the advice, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because if the other person is not going to really internalize it, then you're speaking to a brick wall. So it's almost like, you go ahead, try your best, but they're going to have to just experience it themselves. I don't know.
I feel like there's been a lot of those movies kind of with like the old senseis and stuff where they're like, they send them down this path, but they don't tell them the whole story. So then they can learn these challenges and make them face them, right?
Yeah.
That's the story of life right there.
So we're senseis. We are senseis. That's funny.
So, does money buy you happiness?
Does money buy me happiness? All the happiness. I'm not kidding. Maybe once upon a time, like I think when I was like really young, you don't have much money. You don't have any money actually. And you don't, like, you've never worked a job before. You know what I'm saying? You've never actually had any real money to like waste or spend or buy things that you want to buy. Then maybe it like will buy you happiness, but it buys you happiness because of the anticipation. Right? Because like, let's say it wasn't even the money. It was, I wanted to buy, let's say, this toy when I was younger. Just the anticipation of waiting for that toy. That's the thing that made you go, right? But then, now you can get almost everything that you want. And like the things don't have that same anticipation in them anymore.
I guess here's the good one. So you said like experiences is like the big thing of life, right?
Yeah.
So can money buy you experiences which buys you happiness?
Yeah. Like,
I know at least, I think you've mentioned this a lot.
I think money can be the gateway to full expression of your life. Now, what is this expression going to be, right? Is it going to be something that is actually a life that you're proud of, or is it going to be a bad expression? You know what I'm saying? Like, you can have a lot of money and let's say you spend all that money on drugs and alcohol, and you don't end up having a great life. So money just exacerbated this expression of what your life was. But some people, they take money and now they're free to decide how they want to conduct their life, and they go and they vacation as much as they want. And that's what happened to the MySpace guy. The dude who started MySpace sold MySpace for like 580 mil. He begged 580 mil for himself, and homeboy just went off. He disappeared from the internet. He did not go and start a new business. He didn't do nothing. He literally just goes around the world, vacations with his family, and he has a good time. And he doesn't put himself in any controversies. He doesn't give his political opinions, financial opinions, entrepreneurial opinions. He doesn't do none of that. He just goes and he lives what he wanted to live as a fulfilled life, right? Yeah. So money allowed him to do that. He wouldn't be able to do that without money. Yeah.
Well, right? I think even you look at it at like a smaller level, like even with us, I think we've talked about this a handful of times where we've kind of stopped going for like the material things. We're trying to like when we spend our money, I guess more or less, it's on experiences.
On food. Yeah.
Experiences. That's more
exactly.
Like,
no, I see what you're saying.
Like you go to a good place, right?
Yeah.
Nice like that, right? Because then it's the memory of that is way more valuable than a short term, like one snap of the finger. Oh, I bought this new gadget or something that was like $500. Cool. Maybe a week of that. But if you go for an experience, it gives you this memory that you've got forever. Like the UFC fight we went to, like, what was that, 3 years ago?
3 years ago.
To this day, we still talk about it. Every time we see a fight, it's like, oh, we saw him live.
Yeah. And something that I heard on the Tyson Fury podcast on Hot Boxing with Mike, and I believe this wholeheartedly, and I think he said it perfectly. He says, truly the only thing that we have are moments in time. And I believe this is an expression of our soul. So like right now, we have our consciousness and our soul, and we believe that it's bound to my body. The reality is that everything is bound to my body, I think, except for my soul. My soul, it's everywhere. Think about maybe the number of times that your name has come up in conversation. Not in the conversations that you've been in. In the conversations that other people, they said, oh, remember that time Hudson said that funny joke? You know what I'm saying?
I'm a comedian.
Right,
what can I say?
What can I say? Right? Remember that time he said this thing? Oh, have you ever met Hudson? Oh, my friend Hudson. You should totally meet Hudson. Right? And there might even be somewhere in the world right now, people are saying your name. You are unaware of it as your physical body, but your soul is being expressed. A glimmer of your soul is being expressed in that place.
That's that saying, like, it's like you die twice. I think that was Macklemore that said that. Or it's probably some other thing. It's like one time is when you like actually die, and then the second time is when like the last time people talk about you.
Oh, yeah.
So the first one's like when your body dies, and the second is when your soul dies, which is that.
Right? And so if you're, and I think that's where the satisfaction or the happiness, or I don't even know what it is, but like my pursuit is to spread my soul to as many places as I possibly can, right? And that expression is a positive expression in the world, right? It's not somebody's talking about, oh, Hudson, he snaked out that guy. Oh, Abdul, he was talking trash about that guy. Who's right, because these are still expressions of your soul, but they're dark. They're not light.
Yeah.
Right. But imagine that your soul is expressed, and there's some people who are like this. There are some people whose soul is expressed all around the world, even after their death, and is seen as a beacon of light, right? And I think, I don't know, that's like, maybe that's the end goal, right? Is to try and do that, and that's where you maybe get happiness from. I'm not too sure.
How your soul outlives your body by multiple folds.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
And like, I think a part of that is where legacy comes from, and that's why legacy is so important for so many people. I don't know.
These are the questions, I guess.
Yeah, these are the questions. Like what? Let's say I was gonna tell you. Okay, so we say, okay, maybe money doesn't buy you happiness. Maybe it buys you some elements of happiness here or there. Maybe it buys you the experience that could lead to happiness. Maybe it gives you the freedom so that it could lead to happiness, or whatever. But it inherently doesn't. Okay, so if your pursuit is happiness, what are the factors then that will guide you towards that?
Make sure that whatever you're doing, it brings you you enjoy it. You enjoy the moment of whatever it is you're doing. You're noticing that you're willing to fight through the negatives to keep pushing on. Like, I think that's the big one, right? Like, it's like, if you do this and it's a negative and it's just an absolute drag, and like, why do I even bother? Why do I care? You're questioning your thoughts, then it's probably not worth it. But if you do it and it's like, oh, I'll fight through even though this sucks, I'm going to get through this, it's fine. I feel like there should be one more. That's two. Like, to find your
like, what things, like you said, for example, perseverance. That was effectively perseverance, right? So perseverance, does perseverance lead to happiness? I've heard some people say yes. Some people say, I persevere through the hard times, and actually this gives me a new understanding of life that leads to happiness.
I think the cause and effect is the thing. It's like, does it one way or the other? Does happiness cause perseverance, or perseverance cause happiness? I think either way, perseverance is present in the equation somewhere.
Okay, so perseverance is present in the equation somewhere. So this was kind of like a breakdown that I was doing with myself like a week or two ago. It was the pursuits that I'm on right now. Are they leading to a good life, or to a life that I would be proud of? Right? And I thought to myself, I don't know. Yeah. Right? I really don't know. Like, right now, let's say I want to go into medicine. Is medicine going to give me a life that I'm proud of? I don't know.
Yeah, like we said, you don't know.
I don't know, because like you said, I have not experienced it yet. I don't know. But there are some things I know for certain. What are these things that I know for certain? Is that perseverance is somewhere in the equation, right? It's that meaning is somewhere in the equation. It's that connection is somewhere in the equation. Discipline is somewhere in the equation. So I don't know the equation, and I don't know how it's going to lead me to the good life, or lead me to a life that I'm proud of, or lead me to a proper legacy, or somewhere where my, experiences can live on forever. I don't know. But what I do know is I'm certain that these elements exist.
Yeah. And I
think that's the focus right now.
Yeah, I think that's the big way to put it, is if you can put all these little elements, have them present in whatever it is you're doing, you'll increase the chances that what it is that you're doing is leading towards happiness.
Exactly. And you don't know, because the end goal, let's say the end goal is to have a life that you're proud of, or a life that you can say, you know what, I've not left anything on the table, right? So I've not left anything on the table. I feel good about the life that I've lived.
Yeah.
This is not bound to any career. This is not bound to law or medicine or accounting or business or, entrepreneurship or whatever. It's not bound to these things. So maybe one of these things can lead to that, right? Maybe medicine is actually the one that leads to me, but what if it's a different thing for me? I don't know.
Yeah.
Because
maybe you get rerouted somewhere.
Maybe you get rerouted, but there's the commonalities, right?
Yeah.
And so in whatever you do, because a lot of people, they might think like, okay, this is useless for me to do because I know for certain that medicine's exactly what I need. So I know medicine for certain is exactly what I need. So I'm going to neglect the things that are in my life right now and focus purely on that. Well, what if you're wrong?
Then you're just cutting down.
You're cutting it down.
Yeah.
So instead, maybe the better path is to find the things that are common across all the things that you do, and then focus on those things deeply, right? Focus on discipline. Like, let's say, for example, you want to go into medicine, but you're working a yard job, right? Now, there's discipline in the yard job, there's discipline in medicine. You don't even know if medicine is actually going to be the thing for you, but you know that discipline exists in both.
Yep.
Right? So you focus on the discipline in the yard job right now. And I think, and I'm not sure, and I think if we focus on these common things, then the way it's expressed doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think as long as that's there, then there is a route to happiness one way or another. It might not be what you think it is, but you will end up where you need to be.
And these common things will guide you there.
Exactly.
And that's it.
Spot on.
Thank you guys so much for tuning into today's episode of Blurred Summits. If you enjoyed the podcast or you found any of the information that we shared useful, think of one friend who could benefit from the information or would enjoy listening to the podcast, and be sure to share this with them. You can also follow us on Instagram for more content, on YouTube for the full video podcast, and on all major podcasting platforms. Thank you.